If I can do it, anybody can do it.
So then this comes to you.
Somebody's vacuuming.
Yep.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to tonight's meetings.
Thank you.
We're going to begin with the introduction and the swearing in of some officers.
We got a hearing first, don't we?
Nope,
You
we're
ready?
going
Oh,
to
we
do
do.
officers
All right,
first.
yes, sir.
So I turn it over to Mr. Bauer. He can get started with it.
In there, our newest officer, gonna swear in here. Ready? I do solemnly swear or affirm
I do solemnly swear and affirm
that I will support the Constitution
that I will support the Constitution
and laws of the United States of America,
and laws of the United States of America,
the Constitution and laws
the Constitution and laws
of the State of Ohio,
of the State of Ohio,
and laws and ordinances
and laws and ordinances
of the political subdivision to which I am appointed,
of the political subdivision in which I am appointed,
and to the best of my ability
and to the best of my ability
will discharge the duties of this office.
will discharge the duties of this office.
Look at that. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Thank you for joining Mount Healthy.
Denise,
Thank
nice
you
to
very
meet
much
you.
for joining our police force.
Already met.
Nice to meet you.
She's welcome.
Congrats. Welcome.
Thank you.
Have a promotion now. Got a bio I'll read. I'll introduce our new sergeant here.
Bionic man.
Bionic man.
Bionic.
Chief, you're supposed to make sure he's not hurt when he comes out.
Robocop.
Sergeant Chris Jones started with the Mount Healthy Police Department in January of 2009. While employed with the city of Mount Healthy, he has been a member of the Hamilton County Police Association, Honor Guard, and the Hamilton County Mobile Field Force. He has served as a field training officer, taser instructor, firearms instructor, and worked as the department's only detective since 2014. He has recently received certification as a master criminal investigator for the state of Ohio and has obtained many other certificates of training in different areas. He served 9 years in the U.S. Army, which encompassed both active duty and time in the Ohio National Guard. He has been married to his lovely wife for 17 years and has 2 wonderful children who will be pinning his sergeant stripes on today. Congratulations.
Yell ouch right now. Should I yell ouch right now? That's it? Gonna get the chief up here for anything?
Great,
Thank you, chief.
thanks.
Okay, we're going to move on with our meeting then. We have a public hearing on adopting a tax budget for 2024. Like to open up the public hearing for that. Discussion, council. Melanie, do you want to hit anything on that, kind of top it off for us, start
This
it?
is just our annual tax budget. This is not our official appropriations budget. This is done every year around the same time. What we do for 2024 is we just clone 2023 and move this into 2024 as our budget. So any questions, just let me know.
Okay. Council, do you have any questions? Some of us have done this for about 30 years now, so.
This is due to the county in July 20th. It's due.
Did we vote on this last meeting? Did we have a first
We have
reading?
a second reading.
Second reading tonight.
So we don't have to suspend, right?
No.
Yes, okay. Questions, council? Any questions from the audience on this? Okay, then, if so moved, then I will close the meeting. And we will come to the legislation on this issue when we get to the agenda in our minutes. So, this is closed. Public hearing is closed. Now, we're going to open up our council meeting. If you will please stand for the invocation and the Pledge of Allegiance. Heavenly Father, we come to you today asking for your guidance, wisdom, and support as we begin this meeting. Help us to engage in meaningful discussion, allow us to grow closer as a group, and nurture the bonds of community. Fill us with your grace, Lord God, as we make decisions that might affect our staff, employees, and residents of Mount Healthy. And continue to remind us that all that we do and all that we hear today are for your, and that we accomplish is for your pursuit of truth in the greater glory of you and for the service of humanity. We ask these things in your name. Amen. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Welcome to our meeting, July 20th, 2023.
It's always in my way.
And we'll move right away into roll call.
Here.
Here.
Mr. Redding?
Here.
Mrs. Joseph? Here. Mr. George?
Here.
Mr. Young?
Here.
Here.
Okay, we have everybody present tonight. That's good. Next thing on the in order here are the minutes from the May 16th council meeting. Does anybody have any corrections to be made? Misspellings or omissions? Nobody has anything? Then I will ask for a motion to adopt as printed.
Make a motion to adopt the May 16th minutes as printed.
Who seconded that? Okay. Mr. George has made a motion to adopt as printed, seconded by Ms. Rissel. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Okay, correspondence. Does anybody have any correspondence to bring before council tonight? I don't have any either. Guest and special events. We're going to start with Mr. Troy Miller from the Government Relations Liaison from Cincinnati Metro and Sorta. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening. Good evening.
Well, tonight I'm here to talk about Metro Now. We got one of the buses outside, one of the vans outside to show it to everyone. It's a new service we have started. Part of the tax levy was to to get out and serve the county more. And that was one of the things we did. So we kicked it off in May with Sharonville, Springdale area. That was our first kickoff. It's been somewhat successful. We've had people ride the vans. It's a $2 ride. That's the fun part about it. To ride it's $2 and it stays in that zone. So someone maybe working that zone wants to go to the grocery store that can't ride, can't afford a car, or has a disability. It's became an option for them. The one story we've been told already is the one couple. They couldn't ride anywhere because they both had a disability. They've been able to go on a date since we started the service, so that's been pretty incredible. A little bit about the service. It's in zones. Once we get more buses, that's been the holdup, is getting the manufacturer to get them to us. I know we was talking to the city manager, and he's talking about fire trucks, getting police cars. Same problem with us getting the buses in. So once the buses get in, the service will kick on. The Mount Healthy is the next area to start the section. So hoping to have them by the end of June, have it going. I'm a little concerned if we're going to have it there or not because of the timing of the vehicles. A little about the services. You got on this here little flyer I handed out. And if you guys didn't get one, I can get you one. Little flyer. It's got a phone number. You can do it by two ways. You can do it by an app. You get on your phone, pay for it by an app, or you just call number 513-551-5555. We try to make it as easy as possible to call. Sort of like the Roses, make it easy as you can be, and that's how we did at Metro. So you guys can contact that. We'd say, hey, we need a ride, and they'll come out to you to that spot. We had one a person I knew personally. They was monitoring the people they was picking up, and they said, well, why are you walking down the corner? He said, I thought I had to. We'll actually go to your front of your house. If you're in that zone, we'll stop right there. This guy was very happy because he had a disability. And he didn't realize when he first started using it, hey, closest to the corner, he thought, but they would come in front of his house. We're averaging right now around 5 minutes to getting it to you, so that's pretty quick, staying in that zone. Like I said, it's $2. You can pay cash on the vehicle or you can pay on an app. This is one of our new operators. She's actually been out doing the service already, and she'll tell you she loves it. It's been fun. It's getting people everywhere you have to go. It's a pretty basic system we're trying to make it very accessible. Holds 8 people, 2 wheelchairs. So we made it wheelchair accessible. That's one thing like Uber don't have. It's not a wheelchair accessible for most Uber people. So we try to make it as most accessible for the handicapped and disabled community also. That was our ultimate goal. You guys have any questions? I mean, I don't want to.
What are the zones?
So we got the zones in your pamphlets here. I put a little flyer out. Should be a color one. I think there's the color one in the corner there, sir, right there. I see you right there. Yeah, I think there's some color ones that might be easier to see in the zone. If you go to our website, and I can send city manager here a link, you just go ahead and put your address in, and it'll tell you where that zone is. And I can send that link if you want to send that out to the board. And they can practice, just put your address in and go. If you go to the page toward the back, second to the page from the back, it's got it broke down in like the picture. The color zones are better than the black and white. That's why I was saying. There you go, you got it. And it breaks it down. We do know the system will have to change in zones as we go. A lot of the zones were designed with a consultant, so we'll change those as the system moves and moves forward. We know that. We want, we was actually at a sort of board meeting this morning. One of the board members said, hey, we may want to extend that over in Sharonville a little bit farther than where it was at. Stuff we didn't think about. People was going to give us feedback, and we're going to be able to have to make changes. So that's the gist of it on that.
So just that I'm clear, the Metro now only goes within those zones?
Correct. So that vehicle will stay in that zone. There'll be 4 to 5 vehicles every day in that zone. Okay, it starts at 6 in the morning, and it's actually laid out on there too. And it runs till 8 p.m. Okay, it'll stay in that zone in itself. So if you need to catch a bus downtown, it'll take you to the bus stop.
Okay.
So it won't go all the way downtown for you.
And it won't go over to any of those other zones?
No, they won't go to other zones. So, but you can connect it. If you call and say, hey, I need to connect the zone, they'll connect it and connect you over. Okay. So there's a lot of growing things we're going to have to do. We know this is the trial period, kicking it off. It's been fun so far, trying to, you know, help the people in the community ride. It's in the county that really needs the service. So
How long has this been in effect?
we just went in effect, we had to kick off ribbon cutting on May 17th. And we actually started the following Monday, we started the service. So
So I have a question on this map, the Springfield Township area, which is just to the, a little bit east of us. It doesn't, it looks like all the zones kind of are around it, but there's no zone for Springfield Township. Is that how, am I reading that correctly?
that's correct on that, but like I said, there is changes we're gonna have to make, when that was originally designed. And one of the things that took in play was if we have busing through that area. Okay, if you have a regular bus in that area where we tried to, what the consultant wanted to do is stay away from like overpopulating the bus routes. We wanted to get out in the county zones, like people where they don't have no service. That was the idea.
Okay. All right, so, yeah, so this takes in not only Mount Healthy, but all the way out to Colerain Avenue, Northgate Mall and that, so.
Yeah, yep.
Yep.
Any other questions? Well, I will finish with this. We have all kinds of swag. I don't want to take home with me. I'm going to leave some here for the city. People want to ride, they can contact us. We have a website. We're trying to dedicate everything we can to get the service, you know, as it comes around to the different zones. Like you guys are the second zone to start. Just waiting on vehicles is the hang up. You got a question?
Yes, sir. Do you work with any of the BRT project at all?
I don't. So it's funny, I spent most of my career in the labor movement. In February, I switched over to some people say the dark side, you know, as a joke was said today. But no, I spend most of my time doing government relations, doing this type of work right now.
Okay.
We have grants put in for that BRT. I don't know all the details. I don't know if it comes up through you guys. I don't know all the details of it. If you guys want a presentation on it, they'll probably get somebody out here to talk about it.
Okay.
If that's
Great.
what you guys are, if you want something to talk about the BRT.
Yep. Okay. Thank you very much.
I guess I gotta be just ignorant. What's a BRT?
Bus rapid transit.
Oh, okay.
So, two areas have been picked already, and I don't know the streets offhand. I think Hamilton Avenue is one of them. I don't remember the other one. Montgomery Road, maybe? At least Montgomery Road, I think.
Montgomery?
Was it Reading?
Reading Road, yeah.
I haven't really worked on that project none yet. I haven't had a chance. But what that is a dedicated lane for the bus. So it'll be dedicated to get through. About the only other thing will go through it is maybe like a rescue vehicles can get through it. It's not designed for regular cars to drive through. It's supposed to speed up the service. Some of your cities already have. You've been down in downtown Cleveland. Cleveland has BRT by the stadiums. My daughter went college touring last year at Cincinnati State, and they're like, "We got BRT right outside." And I'm like, "Okay." But yeah, but it's coming. There's a lot of grants working on right now, so there's a lot of stuff.
Yeah, I thought that their deadline for the first 10% for the engineering and the initial design phase in that was due.
Yeah,
and
some had to
and
be
it's kinda
submitted.
gone quiet, so.
Some had to be submitted by a certain date to the FTA. Like I said, I've heard some of the discussions, but I haven't worked on none of the BRT
Okay.
stuff at all, so.
Okay, I'll give those folks a call.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And then if you want the mayor to reach out, a manager here, the city manager reach out, and I can forward it to him. If they get somebody out here to talk about it if you want to.
Okay, sounds great.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
It's a great service.
All right, thank you guys.
Thank
Like I
you.
said,
Thank
don't
you very
forget,
much.
We will have the vehicle outside, so if you guys come out and see it,
Okay.
take a look at it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Troy. Right here all night, buddy.
Okay, Mr. Dwight Weesey, Urban Tree Commission.
I have no swag.
Well,
However, if you need
down to about
to,
30
I
seconds.
may have an inside line to some really small trees that I could get you if you really wanted something along the lines. So I'm up here doing what you are quite common or you are used to hearing. I'm here asking for something. I need your help here tonight. I'm bringing with you two requests. My understanding is you've got a packet there in front of you that's been handed out. I'm using these as my talking points, so you're getting all the information right there for you to go off of. my whole purpose here tonight is to really explain it and to give you the background as to where we're going with all this. So I'm asking straight up for a budget resolution for year 2024 that would include, 2,500, well, we'd like it up to $10,000, but minimum would be at $2,500. And the whole purpose of that is that gives us that's the minimum needed for getting a one-for-one grant. That has to be a matching grant that the state's going to be offering this summer, late this summer, this fall. The other part about it is that we also will need a tree resolution. That one of the items that are needed is how do we protect our public trees within our, those that are in our, what we call the tree lawns, the area in between the sidewalks and the street, other public areas such as in our parks or cemeteries, little green areas that we might have around. All of those would be considered public trees that would then become under this responsibility of saying, we, the city of Mount Healthy, take responsibility for these trees, the care of these trees, and the insurance that when things are done wrong, there are penalties for those who do them. There are some specific requirements for them, and we provide you a recommended, we've really cut it down to trying to be a minimum. We've even tried to get it to be, we've kept it to 1 page. I think we minimized this, we took the font down just a little bit so we could actually get there with that. We are not, none of us are in the practice of writing ordinances ourselves. We've taken some models, some stuff from what other cities we have a couple of we look what already is in our own ordinances, and we said, okay, here we know we're probably going to need to work with you to come up with a better way of writing those, or how do we actually put that into into our city ordinances. And there's just suggestions on there, but so let me go back to why we're going after all this. There is a lot that we've done as a commission, we've done as a city in getting some trees planted and for the care of them. But it's really, we're starting to see, we would like to be able to do a little bit more, and we know that there are funds out there that could really help us in doing that. But to qualify, we got to go through these efforts, and we have not done that in the past. So we're now trying to bring this up forward to go do that. That the state has this opportunity is because of a federal grant that was just closed here just this last month, that the whole application got closed on there. The state's going to find out what they're going to get out of this, that they can go out and do small community grants then from. That's going to occur here probably in July timeframe. They're expecting in August will be when they'll open up the whole grant application with what's the expectations for that, with about a 60-day window for application to go into. Well, if we're going to look at it from a 60-day window, we got to be able to close on these tier requests before that actual submission gets made with a resolution and a budget, and the ordinance is passed and a resolution for funding for 2024 on those, because those would have to be part of the evidence submitted as part of the grant application. There's a lot of projects we have in mind, and that's what's on our page 2. I'm not going to go through all the different lines on there. The first part about it is that we've put these together looking at what are major projects that could really help us down the line. There are also ones that we've realized that these projects are more than what we would be able to undertake in 1 year's time frame. A number of these are items that would have to go on for several years, which brings us back to why do this now? And it's because this is like the first year of a 4-year grant program that is part of this federal grant that's being put out right now, and I don't have I have to look back at my notes to find out what the name of it is. It has to do with the USDA Forest Service Urban and Community Forestry Inflation Reduction Act. So anyway, the whole thing, it is a 4-year program out there. If we get the grant the first year, it actually raises us up for chances for following years of getting that grant. So the opportunity right now is our best opportunity we have. It will help us down the road. So some of our ideas here are around trying to address hazard material identification. Now the city, actually I gotta say, ODNR and at the federal level, they have some of those requirements that come out. One of them is that you gotta have actually track certified arborists in doing some of the identification for it.
What's track?
Help me out, team. It's a,
It's a tree risk assessment, and CU's qualification, but it's a kind of certification, that arborists undertake to allow them to, assess hazards, tree hazards.
okay. So we're very fortunate. We actually have an arborist, a certified arborist, ISA certified arborist. Tom Davis is part of our tree commission. He's not track certified. I mean, it's actually one of the, municipal specialist that does not qualify as track certified, though his training is much the same. Unfortunately, we don't make the rules, but we have to abide by them. We would have to have somebody who does the identification. We then have to have actual ISA certified arborists who are working with the teams for doing any actual removal of hazardous material in those trees. Those could be separate companies. They don't have to be one and the same. Crown cleaning has to do with opening up the canopy of our trees and allowing a little bit more light to come through, but also then removing some of that the competition between limbs that actually makes it so that you don't need to worry so much about the hazard material later on down the road on there. Tree site modifications. You probably have seen all the yellow grass right along the curbs of our streets here the last several weeks. They're now starting to turn back green. Fortunately, over many years, we've had times that when a road has been either paved originally or repaved, or when curbs are put in, sometimes that waste by the contractors gets put into that ground, and then a little bit of topsoil put over it, and the grass is there. The grass somewhat survives, and I say somewhat because, like I said, just a couple of weeks of drought that we had here, you saw how yellow some areas turned. Trees won't do so well. So that's where we really need to do some tree site modification. Take a large area, 6 by 6 foot area, go down 18-24 inches, pull out that concrete or asphalt that's there, or maybe even just compacted dirt that's really there, and put in a good recipe of mulch and dirt and topsoil that then allows the trees' roots to really develop and then grow out, that really can help them. And the difference you would see on that is that you would, if you think about our trees that are right here along Perry, it's been 5, 6 years since those were planted. You could probably put another 5 feet or more of growth on those that might have occurred as a result, just because if we had done that or we were able to do that type of preparation. Now, the nice thing about something like that, if Justin and his team has got time for all this, is it always has to be worked in on it, is that part of the matching work can be done through the actual labor work on as part of the city public works on that one. So, I've been emailing back and forth on Justin to sit down and talk about. We have not talked about these things yet directly, so he's hearing about it really in the same time you guys are on some of them. The whole point being is that our own team can do some of that, and that then qualifies as part of the matching funds that could be used for the grant. Other parts that we have on here are doing a tree database, and that really is to developing a good recommendation or a good listing of what trees we specifically have. We've been working on some of that, but the real area that we've sort of been struggling is actually the next one down is we've been working on getting a survey and telling us what we have, but getting an actual good database that says, here's the location for these trees, here's what they are, that's taking a little bit of work on our part. I tried to, over the winter, put together a Google's map from a Google spreadsheet. It just doesn't work. It hasn't. We gotta get a better tool for doing this. There might be other ideas. We're not a large community. There are tools out there that are used on a almost daily basis because, well, you know, we are almost a neighborhood compared to some of the larger cities, and they have crews out working on a daily or weekly basis, and they're coming back and updating those databases then on that time. I know we're not gonna be in that situation, but we do need something that we can use, that can be used to document what we do have, and becomes the basis for actually then helping down the line. One of the things going through the tree commission that was learned this last time was that, you know, FEMA is actually now starting to deny communities replacement costs for putting back in trees after a tornado has come through. And the whole reason being is that they say, hey, you don't have anything that documents that you actually were caring for those trees in the first place. This would be part of being able to show, look, here's our documentation of what we have for our trees, what we are doing for the care for them, to actually help us then to actually manage what we would be doing for future years going forward. You know, of course, we're also looking at trying to plant new trees. I would also like to look at, you know, the comment was just made about the, you made a comment about it, Joe, about they're trying to put in a dedicated bus lane on Hamilton here.
So that would only be where it won't be the whole thing.
Okay.
It's gonna be a mix of things to increase the speed of transit going back and
Increase it.
forth.
All right. Anyway, I was thinking, oh man, they're gonna redo entire Hamilton Avenue here and change all that stuff. One of the
Not as
things-
far as we know right now.
Not yet, okay. But down the line, there is going to be further planning, further changes to the city. There'll be a time to redo streets, there'll be a time to redo sidewalks. And we can partner, and as part of this, be able to put in what's called Silva cells, which actually is the same whole idea as that whole ground preparation, only it is actually meant for being underneath where you would have the roots growing for the concrete, that allows you to actually have those trees grow and flourish in those areas and not stay sort of in a sickly area. You know, quite often we talk about, you know, the problems you get into a 4x4 area for planting a tree. Those trees are just not able to very well thrive under those situations. And sometimes you can look at those trees and see they're barely surviving under them, and they don't become a helpful attribute then to the community. And that's the whole idea, is to try to grow the value of them. I mean, trees, if you look at them, are the only, they don't depreciate. They actually appreciate with time. So the value of that tree, where nothing else does this, is actually worth more and more to the community as it grows because of the lasting value it gives. So the rest of the packet here, those are the projects. The next item is the ordinance, as is mentioned. Afterward, or the next page on there, page 4, maybe 4.5, because I couldn't count at the time. It goes on to 2 pages. Is just a quick assessment. This is part of my homework that I had to do as tree commission. You know, we have an advocate that's working with us, Wendy Van Buren, thank you, from ODNR, who's one of our instructors for the Tree Commission Academies. And she says it right out. I'm giving you the tools that we use when we give out grants. This is this sort of our spreadsheet. It's not a one-size-fits-all. It is subjective as to the assessments that occur. I just went through, I put X's where I thought they fell. You can, if you want to take a point of any of those, you can come back to me on that one. But it just says where we are. You can also take a look and see that if you go back to those projects, and some of our requests, actually, too, would be things that would address those items on there that we are scoring pretty low right now. But these are projects would actually help us raise ourselves up, which again would give us the benefit of being down the road, down the years, to be able to get those grants further. The last page on there is a tree equity score. And this is an assessment that somebody has done that is actually maintained, I think, at the federal level, different communities along the lines. What you're looking at there is a map of Mount Healthy and the different districts there. The numbers have been quickly written down. You can go to that website and go in there and find those exact same numbers. It's looking, the first number is actual score that they make, and we have some areas that score rather high. And then we have the one right in the middle that does not do so well. And you could even argue, hey, are all their source of data correct on all this? But the big thing is, that one block in there, we're really low on tree canopy, and that's the biggest thing that's taken us down. So those silver cells that we're just talking about, the ground preparation and the planting of trees would all be things that would help tremendously in those areas, and that's what we're looking at trying to help, is to actually go after where would be the best bang for the buck that we can give for the community, and that would be that trying to help that particular area, this particular square on there. So I'm throwing a lot at you, not necessarily in the best organized manner, but it's how it's coming out. Do you have any questions for me?
I guess not.
All right, well, I'm gonna leave go ahead, Joe.
No, I was just gonna say, first time they're seeing it like this, so, I attended I'm assuming that was the last tree commission meeting, right? Correct? Back in early June,
We had it in
late
May. We did meet, this month also.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
trying to remember when that was. I thought it was
Yeah.
earlier in June.
Yeah,
But,
we had a special meeting in May.
These were the things that the commission talked about and wanted to present to council. So they've done quite a bit of work since the actual tree mulching project, just to get this ready for tonight, so.
Could I say something that just like gives a little overview, like the thumbnail of, why it's giving you a lot of information, but sort of a thumbnail is that, there's a very large appropriation of funds. This is a pretty rare thing. And for us to be able to, successfully apply for a grant that would help improve our tree program citywide, and that involves there being a one-to-one match by the city. So basically, the bottom line is we just want to try to leverage these federal funds that are going to come through the state to get a grant. We've never really gone for a grant before, and we'd like to help amplify what we can do through the tree program for the city. So that's kind of the thumbnail.
Questions, comments, concerns, gripes, complaints, or compliments? I'll take all of it.
Very good job.
Great, thank you.
Informative.
Our normal process is to pass a budget in usually December for the following year. But I guess we could do a resolution authorizing that next year we would appropriate a certain amount of money in the budget and do that early.
The tree fund, I mean, we budgeted 1,500 this year.
Yeah.
And we'll do a transfer ordinance at the end of the year to make it official on the books, but the balance in the account would be 3,500 if no other expenses occur this year. So, I mean, at least get you the minimum already that's in there for the 2,500. But I guess we'd still have to pass whatever ordinances.
We would still, we would need the ordinances. We would need the resolution saying this is definitely covered for this funding.
Would you need a dollar amount?
We would need to specify the specifics.
So I guess at that point, it would just, if it were just the 2,500, that's already there. You just pass the ordinance and you're probably good to go. But if we wanted to do more, that's when we'd need to do a special appropriation.
I did lay out a notional timeline as I saw it. I realized there's a lot of stuff as I was putting a lot of this together, is that, okay, maybe I better ask a few folks that have been involved on it. I didn't get to ask Scott and Justin on all those different areas, but it allows us to have something to work with that keeps in line with them and trying to actually get in 2 readings so we don't have to do an emergency passage.
Well, you would need the resolution by July, right?
I need I need both of them to be passed, assuming they would take 2 readings by the September, end of September council meeting.
So we've got 4 meetings before the end of September.
Yep. I just put it in as monthly ones, but
Okay.
thank you.
Thank
Thank
you,
you
Mr.
very
Easy.
much.
Sir.
Thank you. Does anybody else like to address council? Okay. Well, public input. Does anybody else, nobody else wants to address council? Okay, committees and commissions. Beautification, Ms. Lingo.
The Heritage Park, all the plants are planted, and the pots up and down Hamilton Avenue are all planted, thanks to my committee, Ross and Cornell, and the volunteers, Pam Sams and Sarah Danks and her family helped plant and water. And now, Justin and his crew are watering for us. Right? It was hard because there's no faucets for a couple of the plants. We have to carry in milk jugs and go up there and park and water and stuff, but now that they're helping. Most of the storefronts are doing their own, so they are taking care of those. But there's a couple, like 5, that we have to water besides Heritage Park, so I just want to thank everybody for helping out, and they're living, so that's it. Any questions? That's all.
Okay, thank you. Business Partnership and Alliance, Mr. Young.
So Business Association meeting was not able to attend, but Kathy was able to attend and takes great notes, so that's very helpful. Ron Mosby at North College Hill Chamber, for a member of the Northwest Exchange Club, wanted to invite everybody down to a luncheon at Kremer's Italianette there in North College Hill on Thursday, June 22nd, where Ohio State Representative Cindy Abrams will be there to talk about business and quote things, so just different things for small businesses in the region. There's no fee. I'm sure you got to buy your own lunch, but so that's something coming up on the 22nd on Thursday. The Historic Society is open on Saturdays from 9 to 11. And they need volunteers. They're very short-staffed, so if anybody's out there, they would love some help. They're also putting together a Monopoly game board. So on that board, businesses or people can buy properties on there for a fundraiser or for those spots on those boards. So I do have a link to that I can send anybody who wants that. Looks kind of cool. So whether businesses or houses, you can buy these spots and have your name and have whatever you put on there. So it's kind of neat. And also 4th of July is coming up for the fireworks, and they need help for a couple shifts for doing the. They're trying to do 2 shifts, like 8 or 10 people, to help with the drinks there. And also the Historic Society will be doing root beer floats and handing out glow necklaces there also. And the world's largest yard sale is coming up August 5th, Saturday from 9 to 1. So you can start donating items there, but no furniture, clothing, things like that. So, yeah, no clothing, furniture, or appliances. So something to keep in mind for doing the yard sale here in August. And as of right now, I think that's all I have.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Young. Anybody have any questions?
Do they know when the Monopoly will be ready and how it will be sold?
It is being So they're selling sponsorships for individual spaces on the board, plain tokens and cards. So prices range anywhere from $25 a card to $400 for the highest valued properties, or $650 for 3 selected spaces. Sponsor's names go on the card or space along with the company logo if desired. It does not have a time frame when they're doing that, so once I find that out, I'll let you know. I think the only last thing I have on there was they are talking about Christmas, December 16th, I believe, for the Christmas walk, and they're looking for a spot to put like a skating rink. So they've been driving around town, kind of getting some ideas of where to put that, so they're still working on that.
I had that picked up.
That's it.
Okay. We're still with you there, Mr. Young. Economic Development.
Yeah, I'll pass till next meeting on that, so
Okay.
no report.
Finance, Mr. Parsons.
I just want to mention, I looked through the statements as of the end of May. Had a few concerns, a few things to be reassigned or transferred to proper accounts. A few expenses are over budget, but those are things that just came up, some building repairs, some vehicle repairs that were unexpected, of course. But on the good side, on the revenues, I did notice property tax that we received in the first half was considerably larger than expected. So that should help us out. And income tax seems to be right about on budget, so we're doing well there as well. So things should be good for a while. I'm going to call a meeting later in the year, probably in August, to look over the through July statements, but I'll talk about that the next meeting.
Okay, thank you, sir. Anybody have any questions for Mr. Parsons? Library, Ms. Dosa?
Thank you. The library is still continuing to offer normal scheduled children, teen, and adult programs. Wednesdays from June to August, they will still have the Movers and Shakers story time at the park for children's ages 1 to 5 and their caregivers. On Wednesdays at 4 p.m., they will have a digital drop-in session for anyone who wants to drop in for tech assistance. Staff is available to answer any kind of tech questions that you would have and assist with any kind of computer or personal device help that you would need. The library is also partnered with Fibonacci and have started a Pages and Pints book club. They meet the first Wednesday of each month at 6 p.m. at the brewery to discuss the book that was picked to read for that month. Registration is required, and that can be done at the library's website on the events page. The books are also available to be checked out at the library branch. They already had their first meeting in June, and it was a huge success, so they're excited to partner with Fibonacci and to start this program. Informational updates, the library is not going to be serving free summer meals and snacks this summer, but College Hill, Groesbeck, and Northside will in their stead. So also, the library is participating in a food drive with Tikkun, and they're accepting shelf-stable items and donations at the library. And this is to help support Tikkun Farm Service families who are in need for food support. So if you have any things that you would like to donate, they will be accepting those at the library as well. That is all that I have to report for the library.
Okay, thank you. You want to go to park commissions?
Yes, I was going to see if anybody had any questions about the library. In regards to the Park Commission, as everybody knows, the concert series, Ray Sunshine Concert Series has started. I am still looking for some volunteers to cover some of the concert dates. So if you would like to help with that, please see me after council meeting and I can sign you up. Handy dandy sheet, thank you, Kathy. So we have some dates that we need coverage for. It's very simple. Introduction of the band, opening up the, restroom areas and just making sure that they're cared for and locking them up at the end of the service. So if anyone can do that, I would greatly appreciate that. Also, still working towards figuring out what we're going to do to help get our park some equipment. We're still looking into that. I'm working with getting some more information about upcoming grants that are going to, through the ODNR, reached out to them and hopefully we'll have some things to report next meeting. But I also would like to have a Parks Commission meeting the first week of July. So if anyone has any conflicts that week, I would like to do it that Thursday. Please let me know if you have any conflicts, but I just want to make sure I put that on the record.
What date
I'd like
is
to
that?
meet the first week of July, the Thursday, at 6:30. And that's all I have.
Okay, thank you.
In chambers here, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Does anybody have any questions? Okay, Park Commission, we've done that. Safety, Mr. Redding.
I'm sorry, just one question on parks. Who needs to help for the booths? I think, Paul, you raised that for July.
Association.
Business Association needs
Association.
help for the,
Yep.
but which booth? Beer booth? or
Beer pop.
Beer and
I think it's
pop?
the same.
Okay,
I think it's one and the same.
okay,
Yep.
okay. And then I'll see you after council about the concert thing.
Thank you.
Well, also Kurt, I told you earlier,
Oh,
Kurt
that's
Bloom
right.
said that he would be happy to announce any concert if there's, like, you're out there on the, whoever doesn't sign
Yeah.
up. He said he'd be happy to do it. But again, those bands do introduce themselves
Right.
as well. So if there's ever a bind, bands can pretty much handle it.
Yeah.
Thank you. Was that it, Joe? Did you have?
Yes, that's all.
I just want
Sorry.
to make sure. No, I just want to make sure.
Hey, Joe, you're on with the safety.
A couple of things. I'm going to keep this short. I think, Scott, you're going to cover the head count for the PD and fire department and EMS, right?
Mhm.
Okay. So the only thing I had was, I saw an article in Ohio Municipal League where I guess the state is going to require AED units in our parks and places like that. I think we have one currently up, like by the concession stand, that obviously is not in public, but I'm not sure how we want to handle, like, whoops, there went my pen again. I'm not sure how we want to handle if there's games down on the ball fields, which are now soccer fields or things like that, so.
AED,
The
defibrillators?
defibrillators, thank you. So those devices, we'll have to, I'll look more into that and let you know. Other than that, Scott's got the PD and fire department for head count. That's all I had, sir.
Thank you. Questions for Joe? Okay, schools, Mr. George.
No report.
Okay. Streets, Ms. Rissel. Okay, super. Thank you, everybody. Mayor's report, he is not here. City manager then, Mr. Bauer.
Yeah, just a few things here. Fire department, I think I've mentioned this the past few reports, but it's finally happening next week. Next Wednesday, we'll do the assessment for captains. We're gonna get 3 captains. There's only 3 people taking it. Hopefully, they all pass. And then hopefully by the end of next week, we'll have completed the scoring, and civil service will have to approve it and doing the interviews. And possibly by the end of next week or the following, we'll have formally announced the promotion to the captains. Police, just introduced our newest officer. That's exciting. We've made one other offer that's been accepted. That individual will hopefully be starting July 10th. Once they start, then there's only one position now that will be open in the police department, and that's the detective position. So once we fill that, then it'll kind of create a position for patrol, kind of downstream effects, but kind of feel like we're almost fully staffed up here, so kind of nice. July 3rd, the only thing go ahead.
Is the detective position a testing position?
It is.
Test into it, okay.
From the patrol ranks.
Yeah.
So we're still kind of putting together exactly what the test will be, but, we'd like to look at some of their cases. They would submit some of the cases they've performed, but not sure if there'll be a formal written test, exactly how we'll do it, but we'll kind of put that together here in a little bit. The one thing I would add for July 3rd, seems like everything's coming together. We've got all the permits, everything's in order. I know we're still trying to find someone to man there's usually a grilling booth, is that correct?
Yeah.
Someone cooks hot dogs and burgers,
It's the,
the boosters, right?
my healthy boosters.
I think we're still working through that, but everything should be in order by July 3rd. So excited about that. Update on Clover Nook. We did have, I think I mentioned this before, we did have one of the problem units that's currently going through the eviction process. Hopefully that will be a good result, that it's just one of the units that it's just a hot spot for whatever reason. Hopefully we can get that taken care of and get those people out of there. Been working with the county to contact Pearl directly. Still having the same issues that we've had, just having someone that we can talk to. Trying to set up a meeting between myself, chief, their CEO, and our contact with the county. We have made contact with him, with the CEO, so high hopes for it, but we'll see what happens. Along with that, I did want to call the first CRA council meeting. So that would be Joe and Ross, Jamie as a rep, and then I forget what his two candidates were, or his two appointments, but that would be before, if people can make it before the next council meeting, if that's possible. So maybe 6:15 on July 18th. Gordon can be there. A typical meeting would be Gordon presenting us with whatever his findings, he's supposed to submit things to I forget what Ohio department it is, but he would make a presentation to us and we would approve it, so if that works for you.
Works for me.
Okay. I'll double check with Jamie when he gets back from vacation, make sure it works for him, but, so get things in order with that. We don't have to decide this tonight, but with the next OPWC projects, JMA is basically suggesting that we do the same ones that we did before. We would need to have that to them by the end of September. So there's legislation we have to pass, and the one thing we'd need to decide on is what our match would be. Previously, we did 30%. If we're gonna stick with 30, go higher. It seemed like we were pretty close, so 30 might still be a reasonable amount to do, but we'd have to, again, don't have to decide it tonight, but we have to decide what the projects were and what the match are. So I'll have that legislation at the next meeting. And I guess what, July, and as long as we passed it by August, first meeting, we should be good, so. Actually, I think that's all that I had. Questions?
Questions for city manager? Okay, thank you, sir. Finance director, Melanie Branditz.
I apologize, I do have a question.
Okay.
Can you give us an update on your meeting with the City of Cincinnati and some of the,
Yeah, that was gonna kinda come up in ordinances here. So the City of Cincinnati is suing Vinebrook. They're this corporation that just buys up lots and lots of houses, especially during '08 when all the housing prices plummeted. They bought up a ton of them. We have not had as many issues as other places, but the City of Cincinnati is suing them just based on unfair practices against their tenants, kicking people out, just unfair practices against their tenants, basically. So they've called these meetings with all these other municipalities. So I was on one with NCH, I think it was Woodlawn, Springfield Township, I feel like there's maybe one or two other ones. Just people kind of talking about their experiences with Vinebrook, and actually one of the properties we're assessing here is a Vinebrook property. They're actually a good one, even though we are assessing them. It's usually maybe every other year that they get assessed. They sent out some good information. There's maybe some legislation that municipalities could kind of jointly pass to kind of combat some of the practices that they have. But it was sort of in the beginning stages. I mean, I think a lot of it was them trying to help buffer their case that they have in court against them, but
Yeah,
been good. I mean, again,
what, like 32 properties or something?
those, the ones that we could find, they hide behind LLCs.
Yeah.
The ones that are obviously them, it was a little over 30 that we
Yeah.
have in Mount Healthy. But again, there could be different names, different LLCs, so. And again, Gordon and Bill Knight, they didn't seem to think that we'd had too many issues. I mean, there's some horror stories out there, but, so I think we've been fortunate, but it's on the radar to keep track of.
Okay.
I'll ask a question also. I assume the pool is open.
Yes,
Are we open daily, every day?
I believe so.
Yes?
Everything's
No-
gone well. I think
no
we had
problem?
one day was closed because of weather, but
Well, I mean,
we were, yeah.
scheduled to be open every day, no problem with lifeguards.
Right.
Good, that's great.
The
Thank you.
water's clear.
And cold.
Cold.
Staying in the
Okay,
pool.
thank you, thank you.
Yep.
Yeah, I talked to Johnny up to Park one day, and he told me that surprisingly, they have a large number of lifeguards, and they're very happy.
That's good.
And he said they got more lifeguards than anybody else, so.
That's great.
Yeah, I mean, there's a number that I think they teach at Mount Healthy, so just, I mean, if you know the right people and present a good environment for them to work in, it helps out for sure.
Okay.
Well, thank you to John and Justin and Scott for all that work.
It's gone well so far, knock on wood.
Well, we took it back over from the contractor, and
Yep.
Yeah.
got to do that sometimes to get things done.
Okay, departmental report, Mr. Westridge.
This thing working? As you guys mentioned, the pool is open. I've had anywhere from 1 to 3 people inside that pool for the whole month of May. It got a very thorough opening this year, I'll say that. So everything's good to go. The fences in the park have been fixed. We did that all in-house. I was waiting on contractors to come in and fix them, and we're still waiting. So in the meantime, we just fix them ourselves. Place sets all the way down. The guys spread mulch throughout the parks for Memorial Day. I think they only did like 53 cubic yards of mulch. Took them 2 weeks, but they got it done. Memorial Day went off without any problems. So I know seems like the crowd out front's getting a little smaller, but I was told that out on the parade route, it's getting larger. So
It was nice.
that's good. Compton Road is just about done. They've got some final things to do on their punch list and the main striping, the permanent striping. So with that being said, I think Friday they're going to start this side of Compton with some repairs issues that have been pointed out. So we marked almost a dozen spots that they're going to do some full depth repairs and fix before it gets to be like this one was. So a little bit of preventative maintenance.
Can you, on the east side, can you have them check, or you check the sewer lids? Some of them are sunk down below.
That's part of the, yep.
That's what they're going to be doing?
Yep,
Okay,
sewer
thank-
lids, some aprons need to be replaced, things like of that nature area. I would love to report to you on what's going on with Hamilton Avenue, but our correspondent with the ODOT is on vacation. So apparently they're hashing it out. If I had to guess, I would say that they're probably going to wait until they start paving North College Hills
Yeah, that's
section
what I
and
was-
just do it all at one
Yep,
time.
That's what I was kind
If
of
that-
thinking.
I mean, that would make the most sense. So, I don't know if you guys have been down to the wetlands here lately. There's now a portalet down there.
Oh, wow.
So, the place had everything for a family picnic and grilling and kickball, wiffle ball, whatever you want to do. No bathrooms. So now there's a seasonal portalet. It's going to be there from April to November. So, that's a good thing. We had some equipment that hasn't been used in many years, and that has now been up and running. We had an old air compressor that we're going to be using to help repair the storm drain inlets around town. There's quite a few that need to be rebuilt completely, and you kind of need a jackhammer for it. So we got that up and running. We were able to rebuild the catch basin at the corner of Werner and Compton before they got in and paved. That was pretty nice. So, man, I have some estimates to have the center lines around town repainted. So I know every other year or every couple of years it was done in the past, and Hamilton County engineers used to do it pretty cheap. Well, they no longer do their Saturday work, so I have some estimates from A&A Safety and First Star to redo the center lines on half of Adams, half of Clover Nook, all of Stevens, all of Harrison, Hastings Hill, and Kinney. ranges anywhere from $6,600 to $9,600
Per street or
total.
total?
Yeah. The county used to do it for $2,200.
Jeez.
So, how about that? We were able to reseal the parking lot out front here and restripe it on our own. And we, as requested by the police chief, we relocated the police cruiser parking off-street. So now, you know, everything's on our property. So that was pretty good stuff. And I have some estimates to seal the parking lot over here at the community room as a maintenance, kind of like a preventative maintenance thing. Hasn't been done in a long time. It's about due. So I got two estimates that they're both on the same page for right around $3,000. So that'll help prolong the life of the asphalt so we don't have to replace it. So that's really about all I got. Just been busy mowing grass, watering flowers. We planted a bunch of wildflowers around town. That's what we're out watering those with the drought and all, and just figure why not hit the pots too.
We appreciate it.
Not a problem. So I think that's all I got. Any questions?
Yeah, Joe?
Just, Justin, so on the painting the center lines,
Yep.
so is that something your guys can do, or is that, I'm sure we probably don't have the equipment. I know we used to have the equipment.
As an experiment, we took one 5-gallon bucket of street paint to see how far it would go. According to the side of the bucket, it's supposed to do 320 lineal feet. So that is just about the exact distance on hill from Joseph to Elizabeth. So that was, and that 320 lineal feet is a 4-inch wide line, just one stripe. I don't know if we did it wrong or what. We ended up getting 850 feet of 2 4-inch lines out of a bucket.
Sounds like you did the right thing.
Well, we tried it, you know, just to see, because one bucket of paint costs $145. You know, we were able to do both ends of Hastings and the one part of Hill that needed to be done with that one bucket. That being said, we used a parking lot striper, which is basically pushing a grocery cart. So for us to do all these roads, we're going to have to do it in sections because, one, we don't have enough cones.
Yeah.
But we're essentially going to have to walk and push this machine up and down the streets. So if I do my math and figure it up, it's going to be a lot cheaper for us to do it that way. You know, it won't
Do
look
you
as-
have the time to do it, though?
Yeah.
We'll have to see about that. But, you know, we still have, you know, 400 and some change storm drains to clean and inspect.
Yep.
We'll have maybe a dozen to rebuild, stuff like that. So we got a lot of irons in the fire, so to speak. So just some of them are closer to us than others.
Okay.
So, but I mean, that's something that's got to be done. So
Okay.
we'll make it work. We'll figure it out. My pal Melanie here, she's gonna help me out.
So I have a second follow-up question for the chief. So having those center lines painted, does that help your guys if there's accidents and things like that, or?
Yeah, I mean, it does help depending on, you know, left to center, that type of thing, for sure. It does prevent accidents. It is, yeah, slows, it also, I think on the equipment thing, it does slow traffic down. People can't cut across the lane.
Okay. So it makes people think twice before they,
Cutting corners,
yep.
cutting curves.
Mhm.
Okay. Okay. Good to hear. That's all I had, sir.
On the parking lots, what other parking lots are in good shape that you'd want to keep, that need to be kept up, I guess?
This one across the street and the community room, probably about the only two that aren't going to require a lot of maintenance. That being said, you know, cutting out, repairing blacktop, things like that. So those would be the two easiest ones to knock out, and then we can reassess the other ones, whether they need to be, repaved and start over or something. So I know the Eagles lot right there where it joins up with the alley is kind of rough, kind of weird. There's some pretty big spots over here in the post office lot that need to be addressed. Really just need a good thorough cleaning or sweeping to see what happens. And I know the dairy bar lot, that one's pretty far gone. So that's just that's not really on the radar for resealing. That's more on the radar for replacing.
Yeah. I know you get the street sweeper to do the streets, but is it worth getting the street sweeper to do the parking lots? Or is that just gonna pick up gravel?
I mean, the thing has an hourly rate, and last year I think we used it for, I want to say 30 to 35 hours in a week to do, and that's how long it took to do the whole city, which is about half of what it costs to have a contract sweeper come in and do it. I mean, it just, to me, the streets just, if we could do that twice a year, the streets will be much cleaner looking. They won't have as much stuff growing between the curbs and the blacktop. And I mean, we can swing in. I mean, we did our parking lot while we had it for Memorial Day. We borrowed it and did the parade route. So I mean, it'll do parking lots too.
Okay, any other questions?
What's the status of the remote control car track?
They had like a swap meet event over the weekend. So they had a sign-in sheet, and they kept track of how many people showed up. They had 100 people show up to attend this event. Officially, on the sign-in sheet, there were 78, but there's a lot of people that fessed up that they never signed in. They had one guy come from Louisville, Kentucky. He left his house at 5 o'clock in the morning.
Wow.
Cool.
Came up here. Yeah. So a bunch of guys have started like an RC club, and they're wanting to hold races over there, which brings, 20, 25 people on a Saturday morning into the town to have these races.
Still going strong then, huh?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. They have a list of wants and needs that may or may not be able to be accommodated. We're working on some things. The biggest issue that we're having with it is the dust. I mean, it's closed on Friday nights because of the concerts. Trying to pin down some less dusty dirt, if it makes any sense. More clay type stuff. But if my math's right, it's going to take like 35 of our dump truck loads.
Wow.
Yeah, just to cover up the baseball dirt. So other option is to dig out all the baseball dirt and then still haul in 35 loads. So, but yeah, they got a good thing going. I even talked to a guy who actually moved here because of the RC track.
Nice.
So he's up there almost every day.
Wow.
Yeah. So
So, question, in the meantime, if you go to Lawrenceburg Speedway, it's got a dirt track, right?
yeah, for full-size cars.
Yes.
Yes.
So, NASCAR cars and sprints.
Mm-hmm.
So they typically just spray it down when it gets dry. Will that work for RC? I don't know.
Yeah, so those tracks, and even like your BMX tracks, the dirt is what they call processed clay. And sometimes what they spray that down with is either water, it could be sugar water, or like some of the BMX tracks, they use what they call track glue, which is an actual product you buy to spray on the track to keep the dust down. So, right now the guys, we reworked some plumbing in the field house, the concession stand, so they have access to a hose.
Okay.
So it's not something that we, Public Works, have to do for them on a weekly basis.
Okay.
There's a select group of guys that have access to a room down there, and it has hand tools, it has access to a hose that'll cover the whole track. So I mean, the RC Club has pretty much taken on most of the maintenance for the thing.
Okay.
So, I mean, as much as I would like to go down there and play with it myself, it's one of them irons that's further away. All right.
One
Okay,
more,
thank you,
one more question. I'm not sure if this is for you or city manager.
Okay.
The status of Forest Madison project.
It has not gone out to bid yet.
Not gonna.
Yeah.
And they got to bid the waterworks with that?
I believe so, yes.
The replacing the water main?
Well, that's replacing probably the water main. They're gonna have to add curbs. They're gonna add storm drains. I mean,
Well,
there's-
but I mean,
Yeah,
that's our part. The waterworks is replacing their main.
probably, yeah.
And that's part of the project. Okay.
That's on them.
That's supposed to go out to bid this summer?
I believe in the next, probably the month or so, because it's supposed to start in July.
Yeah, last I talked with JMA, it was June, July. so-
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Okay, any more questions? Okay, I gotta back up a little bit. As my habit is, the finance director did skipped. And Melanie, we started with you, and then I passed you up with questions. So,
You know
finance
I'm good
director.
with it, Ross. May's month-end report is in your packet. If you have any questions, let me know. I talked to Bob earlier. He called with questions, and we went over it. So anytime you guys have questions, just give me a call.
Thank you.
That's all I have.
All right. Then we move on to resolutions and ordinances. We have a second reading on resolutions, 23-6. Resolution adopting a tax budget for 2024. That's the one we had the public hearing on. Questions? Everybody understands what this is? Yearly thing. We had the first reading on the 16th. So we need to just get the final vote.
I make a motion to adopt resolution number 23-1206.
Second. Mr. Redding. Okay, Mr. Parsons made a motion to adopt 23-1206. Mr. Redding has seconded. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Lingo.
Aye.
Mr. Parsons.
Aye.
Mr. Redding.
Aye.
Mrs. Dosa.
Aye.
Mr. George.
Aye.
Mr. Young.
Aye.
Mrs. Rissel.
Okay, by a vote of 7-0, resolution number 23-1206 is approved. Next one is 23-1207, a resolution authorizing the Mount Healthy City Manager to sign and accept the memorandum of understanding between the City of Mount Healthy and the Fraternal Order of Police, Ohio Labor Council regarding changes in the current collective bargaining agreement covering full-time police officers and sergeants.
I think we mentioned this last time, but there is one attachment that's not technically part of it, just to clarify, that has all the numbers on it. That was just comparisons, just to kind of help support why we were doing the emergency increase. And the only thing to add to it, we want to do it by emergency. And per our law director, we can verbally say what the emergency is, and as long as it gets in the minutes. And the purpose of the emergency was just to allow the finance director to begin new pay rates on the dates detailed in the MOU. In general, it would take 30 days for this to take effect. Just kind of want to cross our Ts, dot our Is. So it'd actually be this coming Sunday is when these new pay rates would take effect. There's the bonuses in there as well. Those would be paid out on the first payroll as well. Yeah, guys are happy about it, and especially about what we anticipate the rates will then increase to at January 1. So I feel like the department's on board and happy with the way things are going.
Okay. Questions, council? Some good staples in this stuff.
The Big Bertha ones is what we used to call them.
We had the first reading on the 16th, so this will be the final reading. If there are no questions, I'd ask for a motion to adopt.
I'll make a motion to adopt Resolution 23-1207.
Okay, Mr. Redding has made a motion to adopt. Do I have a second? Ms. Lingo, second. Roll call.
Mrs. Lingo.
Aye.
Mr. Parsons.
Aye.
Mr. Redding.
Aye.
Mrs. Dosa.
Aye.
Mr. George.
Aye.
Mr. Young.
Aye.
Mrs. Rissel.
Okay, by a vote of 7-0, resolution number 23-1207 is approved. A lot of papers to go through here. Okay, then we move on to ordinances. Some first readings. Ordinance number 23-2014. An ordinance assessing cost of the removal of high grass and weeds and declaring an emergency.
Let's see, did a little research on these guys. 1469 is a frequent flyer. That's actually a vacant lot. Not sure what happened to the house. That's a prime candidate if we could somehow get ownership or convince them to sell to I think their neighbors are open to purchasing it, but it's got about $3,000 in unpaid taxes. Again, nothing on the property, so, it's frustrating. We have to keep going out there and cutting the grass, especially if someone else would be willing to take it over. I'll keep working on that one, see if we can't keep it off of our list here. There's one other one, 7214. Again, this is one that's actually occupied. I don't know what the issue is. They just don't want to cut the grass. And 7306 Clovernook, that's actually the Vinebrook property.
This cost is for one cutting?
Yeah, I think 222, that's 2 guys at a half an hour. And then I think the 294 is 3 guys at a half hour each, basically is how the math works out.
You'd think they could find a cheaper contractor.
A neighborhood kid for $20, right? I mean, this is one mowing.
Mr. Parsons has made a motion to suspend.
I second it.
Mr. Redding has seconded. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Lingo.
Aye.
Mr. Parsons.
Aye.
Mr. Redding.
Aye.
Mrs. Dosa.
Aye.
Mr. George.
Aye.
Mr. Young.
Aye.
Mrs. Rissel.
Okay, by a vote of 7-0, the 2 reading rule's been suspended. Any other questions before we move on? And I would ask for a motion to adopt.
I'll make a motion to adopt ordinance number 23-2014, please.
Ms. Dosa has made a motion to adopt.
Second.
Mr. George has seconded. Roll call.
Mrs. Lingo.
Aye.
Mr. Parsons.
Aye.
Mr. Redding.
Aye.
Mrs. Dosa.
Aye.
Mr. George.
Aye.
Mr. Young.
Aye.
Mrs. Rissel.
Okay, by a vote of 7-0, ordinance 23-2014 is adopted. Reading on a resolution. Resolution number 23-1209. A resolution approving the plan of the Hamilton County Solid Waste Management District.
So we last did this in 2017. The state of Ohio requires every county to have one of these plans. What's in your packet is just a summary of it. The actual plan is 299 pages. Obviously very comprehensive. I mean, so we either have to approve or disapprove of it. I'm not sure what would have to be wrong with it for us to disapprove of it. I mean, we use Rumpke to take care of our trash, so it's sort of on Rumpke to do the things that the county wants them to do in this plan, but they submit this to us every 5 years for us to approve. Everything seems in order for it. I'm blanking on what the deadline is for it, if we want to do this in one reading. I cannot remember. So if possible, do it in one reading. That would be appreciated. But again, every 5 years, we do this.
Questions, council? We can talk trash for a while.
I like that.
Good one.
Would ask then for a motion to suspend.
I'll make a motion to suspend a two-reading rule for Resolution 23-1209.
I'll
Okay,
second.
Okay, Mr. George, or, Mr. Young has made a motion to adopt, and, Mr. George has seconded.
Suspend.
Suspend, I'm sorry. Roll call.
Mrs. Lingo?
Aye.
Mr. Parsons?
Aye.
Mr. Redding?
Aye.
Mrs. Dosa?
Aye.
Mr. George?
Aye.
Mr. Young?
Aye.
Mrs. Rissel?
Okay, by a vote of 7-0, the two reading rule has been suspended. Any questions yet before we ask to move on? Motion to adopt in.
Make a motion to adopt Resolution 23-1209.
Okay, Mr. Redding has made a motion to adopt.
I'll second.
Who's that, Mr. Young?
Yep.
Okay, Mr. Young is seconded. Roll call.
Mrs. Lingo?
Aye.
Mr. Parsons?
Aye.
Mr. Redding?
Aye.
Mrs. Dosa?
Aye.
Mr. George?
Aye.
Mr. Young?
Aye.
Mrs. Rissel?
Okay, by a vote of 7-0, Resolution 23-1209 is adopted. Goodness gracious. Quit using so much paper. Okay. Resolution number 23-1210. Next one on the list. Goodness. Paper clips are, what do they call them things?
Staples.
Yeah, Staples, stronger than I am. Resolution number 23-1210, a resolution authorizing the Mount Healthy City Manager to sign and accept a memorandum of understanding between the City of Mount Healthy and the Fraternal Order of Police, Ohio Labor Council regarding changes to the collective bargaining agreement covering full-time officers.
So this one is admittedly a little hard to read, mainly because it's 3 contracts that we're kind of putting into one MOU, but also just firefighters and police officers work crazy schedules, so it's kind of difficult to understand some of this. But basically, right now they're on a 5 and 2 schedule, which means you work kind of a traditional 5 days on, then 2 days off. But not everyone has a Saturday or a Sunday. It's usually a Friday, Saturday, or it could even be a Tuesday, Wednesday. So imagine if your weekend was Tuesday, Wednesday. This will allow us to go to a 12-hour schedule, which will be in a 2-week period. It would either be 7 12-hour shifts or 6 12-hour shifts and an 8. And I think it's every other weekend you'd have your normal, either Friday, Saturday, or Saturday, Sunday, something to that effect. So it kind of makes it a little more even for everybody. Helps make us more marketable, departments for it. A lot of other departments are going towards the 12-hour shifts. So this is making it so we are changing it to 12 hours, but it also kind of has language in there that we have the ability that if we don't in any way anticipate this, but if somehow things just blow up on our face, changing it, we can go back to the 8 hours if we really need to, if we have emergency staffing issues or anything like that. So we're not pigeonholed into only having 12 hours, but that is the intention. It's what Chief wants, what the guys want, and girls want. So yeah.
All of the officers are in favor of this? When we do the next contract, though, you gotta look at what's called a day.
Right.
You get a day off, a sick day, is that 12 hours, is that 8 hours? That's all gonna have to be renegotiated.
Right. Yeah, I think it'll be more clear once we have it actually divided up into each individual contract. There's a full-time contract, sergeant contract, part-time contract. So it is a little confusing reading it here, but yeah, we'll make sure we'll also have 6 months to kind of work through this too, so we can work out any issues there are with PTO or any of that kind of stuff, so. Yeah.
If things are done by hours, you earn so many hours off.
Right.
Then if you take a 12-hour day off, you lose 12 of your hours. So.
Right.
Mr. Redding.
Chief, have you had experience with 12-hour shifts at Mason or any other department, or?
As far as the agencies, only working a 5 and 2 schedule down here in that Hamilton County area. We're the only ones doing it right now. Springfield Township, Coal Range, Sheriff's Department, North College Hill, Wyoming,
I guess my concern, and I've never been a police officer, was what that extra 4 hours looks like as far as police having to be alert and things like that. And unfortunately, in your line of work, that could be a hindrance, I guess. But, I mean, if you're confident with it, I am, I just,
Well, unfortunately, we have officers right now working 12-hour shifts with now that we're getting up to staff, hopefully we can eliminate that overtime. But right now, we do have these guys that are officers that are working these 12-hour shifts. I do think the fact that you have, it's not a 5 days in a row, it's at the most you'll be working 3 days in a row with 2 days off, so you got every recovery, then maybe 2 days and 3 days off. There are some drawbacks, I'm not gonna lie, but I do think it's a better way to do business for an agency our size and what we can offer from a competitive work environment, what everybody else can.
okay. Thank you.
Any other questions, council?
This one, like the previous, it doesn't have the emergency language in there, but we're to verbally add it again. And the reason for the emergency would just be to enable the chief to begin scheduling 12-hour shifts by the effective date detailed in the MOU. So but July 1 was the intention and kind of what we've notified the officers in general, in July, we would start doing a 12-hour shift, so.
Okay, everybody all right with that?
Yep.
Okay, I would ask for a motion to adopt then.
I'll make a motion to suspend the two reading rules.
I'm sorry, I did that wrong again, didn't I?
It's okay.
I'll
Okay.
second that.
Who was that?
Young.
Mr. Young, seconded? Okay, Mr. Redding made a motion to suspend. Mr. Young seconded. Roll call vote, please.
Mrs. Lingo?
Aye.
Mr. Parsons?
Aye.
Mr. Redding?
Aye.
Mrs. Dosa?
Aye.
Mr. George?
Aye.
Mr. Young?
Aye.
Mrs. Rissel?
Aye.
Okay, by a vote of 7-0, two reading rules been suspended. Are there any other questions regarding this?
I make a motion to adopt resolution number 23-1210.
Second.
Mr. George has made a motion to adopt.
I'll
Ms.
second.
Dosa has seconded. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Lingo?
Aye.
Mr. Parsons?
Aye.
Mr. Redding?
Aye.
Mrs. Dosa?
Aye.
Mr. George?
Aye.
Mr. Young?
Aye.
Mrs. Rissel?
Okay, by a vote of 7-0, resolution 23-1210 is approved. That is all the legislation. Oh, I'm sorry, I missed one again.
Did he?
It's getting late, old people need to go to bed. Ordinance number 23-2015, an ordinance reappointing the city's members to the Springfield Township Joint Economic Development Zone 1 Board of Directors and declaring an emergency.
This is the same, so we're reappointing, same three that were on before, myself, Bob, and Melanie. Yeah, that's really all it is. We've got our first meeting, I don't know when the last one even was, but,
A couple years.
yeah. That's what kind of instigated this. We're meeting next Wednesday. Realized we hadn't formally reappointed everyone, so.
You have your own.
Don't slap each other over there.
A single reading would be preferred, that way we're official next Wednesday.
Okay. I'll make a motion to suspend the two reading rule on ordinance 23-2015.
Okay, Mr. Redding has made a motion to suspend. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Young seconded the motion. Roll call.
Mrs. Lingo?
Aye.
Mr. Parsons?
Abstain.
Mr. Redding?
Aye.
Mrs. Dosa?
Aye.
Mr. George?
Aye.
Mr. Young?
Aye.
Mrs. Rissel?
Aye.
Okay, by a vote of 6-0, the two reading rule's been suspended. Any other questions, council, before I move on? I'd ask for a motion to adopt it.
Make a motion to adopt ordinance number 23-2015.
Second.
Okay, Mr. Redding is seconded. Motion made by Mr. Young, seconded by Mr. Redding to adopt. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Lingo?
Aye.
Mr. Parsons?
Abstain.
Mr. Redding?
Aye.
Mrs. Dosa?
Aye, sorry.
Mr. George?
Aye.
Mr. Young?
Aye.
Mrs. Rissel?
Okay, by a vote of 6-0, ordinance 23-2015 is adopted. That is all the legislation. You gonna poke me again? Okay. Old Business Council. No old business? New business? Been too long since the last meeting, isn't it? Nobody's can't remember. New business?
Just
Yes.
one thing, Mr. Lowenberg is in the audience tonight, and he's had an issue that I believe Scott is running down. We just got that email today, about 7 in the morning, I think, Jim, is when you sent it out, something like that. But it's concerning net metering with our contract electric provider. So, yeah, I'll be interested in hearing what they have to say
Have they
about it.
contacted you yet? I wasn't sure if they were just gonna go directly through you. Okay. Yeah. I'll follow up with it. I mean, I talked to him today, obviously, so, but have not heard back since my discussions with him.
Hopefully it will resolve for anybody with effects, not just me.
Sure.
So, and I can tell you, there's not only you on St. Clair Avenue that has net metering. So, I was surprised when they gave you the boot out of the program, to be totally honest.
Did you have that same setup in the previous aggregation? Okay, yeah. Okay.
Can I ask you a question? When you get paid for what you're putting in the systems, it's the same rate? Same,
I don't know. Basically, it just reduces my usage. I've never provided back more than I've used.
okay, so they just net your usage over your put back and charge you at the current rate? Okay. So you're basically getting paid at that rate? Okay. Thank you.
Any other new business, council? Denise?
Make a motion to adjourn?
Ms. Lingo has made a motion to adjourn. Do I have a second? Ms. Dosa seconded? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Can't stand
Thank you, everybody.
like in that permanent.
Meeting is adjourned.